When I was 4 years old, I woke my mom up at 4 a.m. on a Saturday morning, holding a toy stethoscope to her forehead and said, "Mom, I'm gonna be a doctor." My mom tells this story way more than I would like her to, and to everyone she meets. My favorite part of the story is what she says next. "Bria, you can be whatever you want to be, but what I want to be is asleep." All my life, my dreams have been encouraged. I see people who look like me doing what I dream of doing every day. But sometimes, that makes me think about the first. You see, for women, there's always a first, someone who paves the way for those who are coming after them. Someone like Elizabeth Blackwell, the first female doctor, Loretta Walsh, the first woman to enlist, and Miriam Ferguson, the first female governor, who was elected by the state of Texas, by the way. To be the first, you have to work 10 times harder and be 10 times smarter than everyone around you, which is exactly what makes Doris Allen so special. Doris, or Lucky, as her friends call her, was the first female prisoner of war interrogator in United States history, and the first Black servicewoman to be inducted into the Military Intelligence Hall of Fame. But her journey was not an easy one. As a Black woman in the military in the 50s, her career was full of roadblocks and setbacks. But according to Doris, she'd do it all again for the girls following in her footsteps. In an interview done with the Vietnam Veteran Administration in 2004, Doris explained that she has always rejected the status quo. As a young girl growing up in the 30s in Texas, Doris was blissfully unaware of her race. You see, she grew up in El Paso, which at the time was more of a town than a bustling city. The people were close, everyone spoke Spanish, and the schools, while segregated, were all relatively good. As far as pre-civil rights childhoods go, Doris's was pretty all right. She credits this to her determined spirit and inability to take no for an answer. It is her Texas upbringing that made her fight to be respected by others as holy as she respects herself. In her article spotlighted on Doris, author Rose McKerney explains, "Going past what normal people do and living life how you see fit has never been easy. It takes courage, self-respect, and a lot of determination. I like to think that strong Texan courage is exactly what made a 23-year-old Doris decide to enlist." In her interview with the VA, Doris went on to say that she decided to enlist on a bit of a whim. She told the story of how when her brother came home from World War II, he was telling her stories about what he experienced there as a Black man in the Army. Doris stopped him in the middle of one of his stories and said, "I'll get them for that." Then, that Friday, October 13th, 1950, Doris was in her local recruitment office. By December of that year, Lucky was reporting for duty for the first time. However, the Army wasn't exactly what Doris imagined it would be. When she joined the WAC, or Women's Army Corps, Doris wanted to join the WAC band. However, Doris was later told that they don't allow African Americans in the WAC band. As a recruitment band, it was necessary for them to put their best face forward. They thought it would be better for Doris to work in the newspaper division of the WAC because of her experience running her high school newspaper. Her job may not have been what she wanted, but it was something that was necessary. She assembled reports and sent it off to field officers while also reporting for the WAC newspaper. This job took her to Korea during the Korean War, even to Japan to cover the Japanese army. During her 11 years with the WAC newspaper, Doris made it well known that she was an extremely hard worker. This led to her to get a promotion, becoming a sergeant and earning herself a placement at Fort Monmouth. This would be a turning point in Doris's career, but at the time, it was just a regular assignment. Just like she did with every post, Doris went in, did her job, did it well, and tried to advance in her career. Unfortunately, she seemed to not be making any progress. In her VA interview, Doris explained why, saying, "I refused to go on a date with my boss, so he refused to give me my stripes. I wouldn't date him, so he wouldn't give me a promotion." As a woman on the rise, Doris knew that staying at Fort Monmouth was stifling her career. So she planned her escape. For months, she filled out application after application for programs that she didn't even know what she was applying for as long as she got out of Monmouth. Eventually, she was selected for one, and soon she left for the Army Language School, where she would study French. This is where being a Texan really came in handy. Because of her background in Spanish, French came easily to Doris, and soon she was excelling in most all of her classes, so far ahead that she had only the instructors to talk to. This is where Doris was scouted for the POW Interrogator School. She accepted a position there and in 1963 became the first female prisoner of war interrogator in United States history. And her assignment after graduation? Vietnam. From the moment she stepped off of the plane, which carried 228 men and her, Doris knew she would have to fight to prove that she belonged there. Women weren't always accepted in Vietnam. Well, except for the nurses. They really liked the nurses. According to the article Dragon Warriors and Girls Next Door, over 7,500 women served in Vietnam, and of those, about 87% were nurses. Of those who were not nurses, only around 700 were members of the WAC. Despite being outnumbered and underestimated, Doris assured the West Point Oral History Society in 2016 that she was not intimidated. She would do what she always did, her job, and respect would follow. Her job was to look at track the movements of the Viet Cong and Cambodia's army, and soon enough, her chance to prove herself arose. In December of 1967, Doris received reports showing that a large-scale attack was in the making for January of the next year. She received reports saying that a large group of over 50,000 Viet Cong troops were planning to attack small cities in South Vietnam. Doris gathered her information and brought it to her superiors, where she was promptly rejected. Doris attempted to assure them that her information was valid and something was coming, but every time her tip was rejected. So, on January 30th, 1968, exactly what Doris planned came true. What is now known as the Tet Offensive, the largest military offensive in the Vietnam War, was what Doris had been finding reports of. The Tet Offensive happened on the Tet holiday, or Vietnamese New Year, and over 80,000 Viet Cong soldiers did exactly as Doris predicted. And unfortunately, over 9,000 American soldiers and allies lost their lives. Today, the Tet Offensive is seen as one of the biggest military mistakes in United States history. In fact, it's seen as a turning point of the Vietnam War and a key factor in America's decision to withdraw. All because a group of men refused to listen to a little black girl from Texas. While this was not the end of her military career, it is the thing Doris says she remembers the most. She often thinks about the names on the Vietnam War Memorial that would not be there if someone had just listened to her. She's 92 years old now, but she still thinks about it. She's pretty sure she always will. Later, Doris would go on to become a warrant officer, and when she returned home in 1970, she was offered a job teaching at the U.S. Army Intelligence School. Oh, and in her free time, she received a PhD in psychology from the Wright Institute at Berkeley. Now, Dr. Lucky, she retired in 1980 after 30 years of service. And in 2009, Doris was inducted into the Military Intelligence Hall of Fame and remains the only Black servicewoman ever to be inducted. Over her career, Doris has received many awards, and she deserves all of them. But she deserves them for more than just what she's done. She deserves them for being an inspiration to little girls from Texas who dream that they can do something big. Girls like me. This summer, I'll be applying to medical school and fulfilling a dream I've had since before I could tie my shoes. And I wouldn't be here without the firsts, all of them. I am inspired every day by the women who've come before me. People like Dr. Doris Allen opened the floodgates that made female greatness commonplace. And for that, we are very, very lucky.